I'm particularly happy that I will be speaking alongside two of my former students, Esther Awe and Blessing Oroyemi. I'm so proud of the two of them. Blessing Oroyemi was my project student in the year 2017 or so. And what really makes me happy is that she worked on mineral exploration, and that is exactly what she's practicing now. So I'm so proud. I'm so proud of Blessing. And I would also, as a form of introduction, say that EXU is my second home. I was at EXU for 6 years. That was where I started my teaching career. And anything that comes from EXU, I won't think twice before I accept, give back to EXU. I was there before I joined where I am presently in 2017. I still maintain my touch with EXU. I have my friends there, wonderful guys, Dr. Afolagboye, Dr. Ajishafe, Mr. Henry, Dr. Uju, and the host of others. Also have my superiors, Professor A.B Eluwole, and the rest of them. So I hope it's going to be a wonderful meeting. Some of you might know me in person, or some of you might just have heard about me. And one thing about EXU that so interests me is that EXU geology, my office was retained for about 3 years. I had to go and beg the HOD to just allocate the office to somebody else. So that's the much esteem with which EXU hosts me, and I quite appreciate it. So this morning, my job is not difficult. I'm here to speak on things you are already aware of, and just here to probably emphasize on some of the things that we already know. I sent my slides to the president on Tuesday. I hope I will have the honor of him sharing it so that we can follow the slides. I usually have, I like to follow a procedure. Really, I can say these things by heart, but for us to follow, that's why we are going to be using this academic world, becoming the best as an undergraduate. That's the title. The title that I've been asked to speak on. Am I on, please?
Yes, sir. You are on, sir. We can hear you.
All right. So let's go on.
Okay.
Academic excellence. What is academic excellence? I'm a teacher. You permit me to teach. Please go to the first slide. All right. I'm a teacher. I have to pay your indulgence that you allow me to teach. Sorry, I'm having some interference.
All right, please let everyone unmute their mic, please.
Could those people unmute so that they don't interfere? All right, can I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Now, before I go into the slides, I want to give a little bit of statistics, and I wouldn't want anybody to be afraid. I'm not here to scare you, but I want to tell you the truth. The reason you must do well as undergraduates, because whatever foundation you are laying now, you are laying for your future, and it all starts from the university. Why do you need to do well? The truth is, if I asked you now, most of you in geology, geophysics, everybody wants to work in the oil company. And the sad truth is the oil companies are not employing enough graduates that study geosciences. From statistics, many universities or many institutions in Nigeria have courses that are related to geosciences. And every year, more than 3,000 or close to 4,000 graduates, are taught related courses all over the country, polytechnics, and statistics has shown all the oil companies in Nigeria, 20 to, and that is less than 1%. Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, your network is a bit, yeah, I can hear you, but it's cracking a bit, sir.
Is it? Hello. Is it better now?
Yeah, very well, sir. It's better now, sir.
All right. Yeah, I was giving a statistics that if I had everyone there, I believe everyone studying geology or geophysics wants one day to land in an oil company. And I'm saying that the sad truth is the oil companies are not employing as they should employ because of the number of graduates that are turned out from universities, studying geology or geophysics related courses. More than 3,000 or 5,000 or to 4,000 students are graduating from geology related courses every year. And statistics have shown that in the last 25 years, the oil companies employ only about 20 to 25 graduates of geosciences. And that is, from statistics, less than 1% of the total people that studied those courses. So that is to tell you that you have to add more to your hustle, as it is said. So academic excellence has gone beyond mere passing courses within the four walls of the university or the tertiary institution that you have found yourself. By my own definition, as of today, academic excellence encompasses the total effectiveness, efficiency, and tangible productivity of a student, both within and outside the tertiary institution. There is no doubt, good grades have no replacement. You still have to have good grades. That's what will qualify you for that interview. That's what will qualify you for that aptitude test. But again, you must always strive to have good grades. However, globalization has made it a matter of necessity for any undergraduate to add greater values to themselves. Next slide, please. So you need to add value to yourself. Now, I want to do a bit of explanation of this figure that I'm presenting. You can see that we have a big ellipse, and we also have the smaller ellipses that are intersecting one another. The two other smaller ellipses are standing alone, although they are also of importance. But the reason for that is the first five ellipses are mutually existing. One has to exist with the other. That's why they are intersecting. But all the ellipses are intersecting the major ellipse, the big ellipse, which encompasses academic excellence. So I'll start from the first ellipse, the small ellipse. Love your course. It is normal. It's since our days. Most times you don't get admitted into the course of your choice. The person speaking to you today is an example. I wanted to study civil engineering, so I didn't so much like the course that I was given. And that really affected me. It was until 400 level that I accepted my fate. That was 2 years to the end of my studentship. That was when I accepted my fate to study geophysics. All along, I believed to be an engineer, perhaps maybe because my dad is a successful engineer and I wanted to take after him. So the first thing is whatever course you have chosen initially, now that you are in the geosciences, you have to love it. It is when you love it, when you can do other things. That's when you can get the best out of it. Then the next thing, when you love a course, is you accept that school is not a scam. It's everywhere, school na scam, school na scam. You have to accept that school is not a scam after all. And when you accept that school is not a scam, then you have to attend lectures and take notes of every lecture. Yes, you must have been told this when you resumed as undergraduate in your year one, you attend lectures and do that. I'm only emphasizing. And another thing is you read up all lecture notes taken per day. I started doing this in my 400 level. I told you I wasn't really committed to geosciences from 100 level to 300 level until I started in 400 level. Every lecture that you have taken in a day, you have to ensure that you read the notes on that same day. That is when the lecture is still fresh. What the lecturer said in the class, if you wrote the note yourself, will still be fresh in your memory. And when you read, it will further give you understanding. And I went further during my undergraduate days, which I also did when I was doing my master's and PhD. When we are taught today, and the next class, I'll read the day's lecture notes and go back to the previous lecture notes again and read everything again. So you are building a cycle of knowledge such that before the exam, you have good understanding of the course. You don't have to crash read as it is common to undergraduate these days. They pile up all the notes and they crash read some days to the exam. Or in fact, a day to the exam, that's when they want to master everything. It doesn't work like that. If you want to be excellent, if you want to be an excellent student, you don't pile up your notes. You read every day and read and reread. When I was in 500 level, there was a particular course. By the time I was going to write the exam, the texture of my note was like a tissue paper. You know how soft tissue paper is. That is the extent to which I have read that note. And if you woke me up that time, anytime, I could tell you the content of that note. And that is what still saves me till today. Do all assignments yourself and write all tests. That's important. As a student, you know you have to attend classes, do assignments, and ensure that you do your tests. That's very important. I tell you, as I speak to you today, reading has become part of me to the extent that if I don't read optimally in a day, it will be as if I am sinning against God. It's becoming a spiritual affair, I must tell you. Even my 4-year-old daughter knows that reading is not a joke in our house. And if you can imbibe that attribute, you are building yourself for excellence. Then the next thing, you can see the next ellipse on this cycle is bigger than the rest. That is to emphasize how important it is. Add value to yourself. And I'm going to be devoting most of my time discussing that. And in fact, that is bulk of what I'm going to be telling you. Because the 5 previous ones I mentioned are things you're already aware of. But this one, I'm going to spend more time on it. Add value to yourself. Reading or passing alone is not enough these days. You have to have what others don't have to really pitch you out of the pack. Then the last one, you can see that one is far away, and it is a very small ellipse. Rest well. But you don't deserve to rest until you have satisfied the 6 other ellipses. Can we go to the next slide, please? All right, adding value. How do you add value? The Internet of Things and globalization. Are they liabilities or they are assets? Yes, I'll give you a little story. In my undergraduate days, I'm using myself as an example so you know where we are coming from and why you have to appreciate your own generation of studentship. During my undergraduate days, internet was so much of a luxury. We didn't have the privilege of having internet on our palms as we all have now. It was a luxury that it took 3 or 4 people to contribute to go and browse in a cyber cafe. And then we did overnight browsing. We traveled several kilometers from our university to go and do overnight browsing, maybe once in a month or once in a semester, if we are not permitted because of other encumbrances. So we ensure that we had prepared all the information we wanted to gather, and we will go there for overnight browsing and get those information. But today, at the snap of your palm, you can interact with the whole world. You can get information from anywhere in the world. So it is supposed to be an asset to somebody like me, coming from my own generation of studentship. I see it as an asset because now I envy people who are undergraduates. I want to go back to my undergraduate days and still have this kind of opportunity that you people have. But it's so unfortunate that nowadays the students abuse the internet. They do all manner of nefarious activities, all manner of evil things that they do on the internet. But rather, an excellent student should use the internet to his advantage. And our own generation was better. A lecturer of mine told me while he was trying to apply for his PhD in the 90s, he said he had to travel to Ghana to go and send an email. Can you imagine how life was in the days, in our past days in Nigeria? Somebody had to travel to Ghana to send an email to Brazil. But nowadays, you guys have the internet to your advantage, and you can use it to add value. Because if you abuse it, it will destroy. So I'm going to be emphasizing on the positive aspect. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Globalization and as an asset for excellence. Now, ignorance is no more tenable. With the internet, you can be in EXU or wherever and get lecture notes from universities around the world. The same course you are doing, some people are doing it elsewhere. All you just need to do is type some keywords on Google. You guys have Google to your advantage, and you see all manner of information on the internet. The internet gives you access to online resources that have proven to be awesome for capacity development. As I speak to you, I have taken a lot of courses online, even as a PhD holder, and having people who are not even master's holder teach me because I don't know those things. For example, we have what we call the MOOCs, massive open online courses. They are everywhere. You have the YouTube to your advantage. You have Coursera, you have Udemy, you have the Massachusetts Institute of Technology courseware, etc. They are all usually free, and when they are not free, they are relatively affordable. Let me tell you something. I was going to use an equipment recently, and I realized that going through the manual was going to take my time. In fact, I wasn't even on time. We have some interference there, please.
Please, can we all unmute? Please, can we unmute?
You know, I had to go to YouTube to go and learn how to operate that equipment. I was there for about 4 hours, and I slept around 5:30 a.m. You know, I was online throughout the night because I wanted to learn. So that's the advantage you have. In my undergraduate days, if you needed an information, you may be in the library for several hours, opening all manner of books. That is if your folks have not even gone to hide those books where you can't find them in the library. You open 10, 15 books, and at the end of the day, you have spent 6 hours in the library. You are only able to get half of a page information. But these days, with Google, you can get a plethora of information, and you even be oversaturated with information. So if you use that to your advantage, then you can build skills for geoscience undergraduates.
Hello, sir. We can't hear you.
Go to the next slide, please.
Okay, sir.
Soft skills. Are you there? All right.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Soft skills for geoscience undergraduates. These are the major skills that any undergraduate in the geoscience world should strive to learn while in school. And I must tell you that before I left school, I learned all of this, or most of this. So I will start talking on them one by one. The first is the geographic information systems, the GIS. You must have heard that before. Then the geoscience-based softwares, then computer programming. Next slide, please. Now in the GIS, we have several systems, several softwares for GIS solutions. The first one, which is most important for an undergraduate student, which is recommended for every undergraduate. Before you graduate, you have to learn how to use software. You should be able to make your own maps. You should be able to make your topographical map, your geological map, your data acquisition map, all manner of maps. As an undergraduate, it's good for you to be able to do that. GIS is such a powerful tool that if you know it, you may not even have to look for a job. If you know it and have some information, have some links, you can sit right in your house and be getting jobs. It starts even as a soft work as an undergraduate. You can start making maps for people, and instead of you calling mommy and daddy, you get some 5,000 here, 10,000 there, 20,000 there, depending on what your colleagues who are lazy wants to do. And you feed yourself and enjoy yourself in school. And it is not only for geoscientists, even the economists use it, accountants use it, medical doctors use it. So if you know it, you can apply it to any kind of profession. You just need an information from whoever wants to use it, and they'll tell you exactly what they want you to do for them. And you can do it with your knowledge of GIS. In fact, nowadays, it's used in forensic studies. The police and all manner of people use it. Okay, please go back to that first slide. So for beginners, the software is quite important. We also have other names that are not on that list. The EDAS, Imagine, Map Info Professional, Map Window, GVZig, MV Saga, and the likes. Then we have the one that is command line based. That's the Geographic Resources Analysis Support, called GRASS. And it's not for beginners, actually. It's for advanced people. Next one, please. Next slide. Then we have the heavyweights. That's the ArcGIS. You know, I'm an expert. I'm a distributor for ArcGIS in Nigeria. Licensed.
Please, can we unmute our mic, please? Can we unmute our mics? Please, let's unmute our mic, please.
Can I proceed, please?
Yes, sir, you can, sir.
All right. So we have the Esri ArcGIS. It's the most the most robust of all GIS solutions. And like I was saying, I'm an expert in ArcGIS. I am a distributor of the software in Nigeria. I'm licensed, and I can install it for people. I have the license to do so, especially for students at very cheap rates. I have about 20-something licenses with me now that I can give. So it's very expensive. Like I've written, it's fast, it's reliable, and it's used by most governments in university and military organizations. And it's robust. You know, if you can learn how to do that, maybe after school, life will be easier for you. You know, I'm an example of. Then we also have the QGIS. That's a quantum GIS. It's easier than ArcGIS. It's a free open source GIS, and it's rapid release cycle. I must tell you that the ArcGIS is the costliest among them. The last license I did for about $900 or so. And if you buy the limited edition, you pay about $5,000. So, but it has some attributes that the rest does not have. Next slide, please. Next slide. Just keep pressing. All right. Geoscience softwares. For the geoscience softwares, the geology bias softwares are RockWorks, StereoNet, GeoOrient, Petrel, OpenDetect. In fact, I'm happy OpenDetect in Nigeria. They are the major suppliers of OpenDetect, and they also do trainings. So it's a good opportunity for you guys to link up with Esther so she can help you with Open Detect. We also have the Kingdom Suite. Petrel, Open Detect, and Kingdom Suite are hydrocarbon exploration or petroleum exploration softwares, and they are very, very versatile in all manner of geological works, your depositional environment, stratigraphic analysis, borehole logging, and other things you may want to do. They are very, very good. Your rock works is good for environmental studies, engineering studies, and general geological studies. The StereoNet and Orient are also good in that manner. We also have some geophysics bias. Now, I must tell you that these lists are inexhaustible. We have more, in fact, 1,001 softwares, but these are the most common, readily available, and easy for you to learn at your level. And that's why I'm putting them all. This is not the list, the whole list of the softwares that you can use in geology and geophysics. The easiest and the cheapest software, the most popular software in geophysics, is the RESIST software. We have the OASIS Montage for aeromagnetic analysis and magnetic analysis. We have the DPRO for Windows, the RESIST 2D inverse for resistivity inversion, 2D inversion, RES 3D inverse. Then Open Detect, Petrel, and other things are also relevant in geophysics. Next slide, please. Next slide. Our programming platforms. We have some programming platforms. We have the outdated one, they are still relevant. We have the Windows VCR, and the modern ones are the mathematical language.
Please, can we unmute our mics?
We have Oracle, and we have Python. Recently, I worked on a publication where I used Fortran to do some simulation, and in fact, it formed the bulk of my PhD research. So some of these outdated ones are also still relevant. If you can start from learning them, then you can move to other ones that are modern. As I speak to you, I'm a student of Python, but I'm not going to bite anybody. Next slide, please. So as a quick roundup, I have to let you know that school is not a scam after all, and you can access the whole world from your palms. You can do better than you think with the internet or your side, and the journey to your future begins in school. You can get remote jobs while in school. You can be your own employer after all, and you can help yourself and help the nation and also help the world. Then I'm going to add this. I have to let you know that at this level, you have to subject yourself to mentorship. Look at people who have gone ahead of you. It could be your lecturer, it could be your seniors who have graduated, like Esther Aware and Blessing Oroyemi that you are connecting with. Those people have walked the path you are walking. They have experience and they know where there are potholes. They will help you so that you won't get into the same ditch they got in while in the journey. Then you have to develop interpersonal relationship with yourselves. You never can tell that the purpose for you being in EXU or whatever institution you found yourself is for you to meet your destiny helper. That guy in your class that you feel is not doing well or is not serious may be the person that will help you in the future. So you have to keep contact. You have to have interpersonal relationship with your friends. And I must also tell you that you have to attend conferences. It's very important. At conferences, you may meet your next employer. You may meet, your next interviewer, and that may be a breaking of the iceberg for you. So it is important that you keep learning. The internet is an advantage. Do not let it be a disadvantage to you. I want to thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak to you at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate all those inspiring thoughts. And what I gained from this is a whole lot. School is not a scam. Please let us keep that in mind that school is not a scam. It's very important for us to know that. And sir, there are some questions that are here for you, sir, which has been said in in the chat box. Yeah. And some people have sent it to us before the program. So I don't know if you'll still be with us till the end of the program so that we can actually ask you those questions, sir.
I have another meeting by 12. I would like if I could answer my questions. Hi, Fernanda. I'm happy to see you. Good morning.
Okay. All right. And okay. Give me a while, sir, so that I can actually fetch out those questions, sir.
All right, it's not a problem.
Okay, sir. Okay. So with regards to those software, sir, I would like to know, like, for those that are that would be interested, what would it cost, or what would it take us to actually get those softwares installed?
What software is that?
That's the ESR ArcGIS.
The ArcGIS.
Yes, sir.
Yes, the license I have now for the student edition.
Okay, sir.
It comes with training. Actually, I have a training school where I train people on the use of ArcGIS. So I can't just install. I got the license with Esri with an understanding that I'm going to treat the license of the software available. It's a way of marketing Esri themselves.
Oh, okay, sir.
This is being recorded. You know, I'm a civil servant.
Okay, sir.
So we could be sure that that is kind of thing for you.
Sir.
All right. Can you hear me now?
All right. Yes, I can hear you.
I said it may be difficult for me to discuss business here because I'm a civil servant.
All right, sir.
And that if you want information on the GIS software and the training, then you can get back to me through email, or you can call me and I'll let you know what it takes.
All right. So first of all, I'll be on this chat box. I'll be giving opportunity for those that would like to ask questions. So if you'd like to ask a question to give a question to Dr. Eluwole, please, you can just give a raise of hand before the next speaker comes up. So if you have a question for him, okay. We have one person. So you have the floor right now. Okay. You have the floor now. You can unmute yourself and talk.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. My question goes this way, sir. For someone in according to software that I've mentioned so far, like
Yes.
I saw that I studied like a course like artificial intelligence. Does that have anything to do with geoscience, or is it going to be in one way or the other, like add to the knowledge of geoscience? Are you geoscience students?
Yes.
Or do you have any contribution as an artificial intelligence?
Oh yes.
Student?
Oh yes. Yes. There is virtually any profession in this world now that doesn't require artificial intelligence. You know, it's all about what a human being can do, training the computer to do it and do it better. That's machine learning. I told you that I just finished writing a publication where I actually did artificial intelligence. So as a geoscientist, as a geologist, you can use your knowledge of AI to solve more problems because you get more information from your data using artificial intelligence and all manner of data science. As I speak to you, I'm enrolling. I can see my Oga, Dr. Turami. Welcome, sir. I'm enrolling for a course in Massachusetts Institute of Technology, $1,900 or so, for artificial intelligence and data science. So as a geologist or a geoscientist, your knowledge of artificial intelligence is superb. It's not a waste at all. It gives you an edge over others. I answered your question correctly.
Yes, sir, you've answered my question, sir. Well, concerning the softwares you made mention of so far, sir, there are some softwares that probably can you like get some other software under Microsoft that is not really compulsory that you should be the ones you've sort of mentioned earlier, sir, and you can still work like as a geoscience student perfectly, sir, in terms of contributing in one way or the other, sir, to your personal development.
I didn't get that, please. Can you come again?
There are some. Are we all limited to the softwares you mentioned so far, or do we see? Can we see Can we see work extra miles to get some other software? Provided we are going to, it's going to add advantage to us in one way or the other as
Yes,
a geoscience student, sir.
I mentioned it while I was presenting that those softwares are inexhaustible. That I only mentioned those ones that I feel at your level, they are readily available and that you can get and not so expensive. There are 1,001 softwares that you can use. And in fact, you can also develop your own software. Now I'm thinking of having my own software, having a patent where you use your software to solve your own problems, because the software may not solve the problem you want to solve. So more than those ones that are presented, there are other softwares that you can use. May I also tell you that Microsoft Excel that you feel is just for adding and multiplying, can be used as a software for modeling, even in geosciences. I've done that. I'm having a publication there very recently that I used Excel to model. So even your Microsoft Excel and Visual Basic is one of the lists that I put. They are powerful tools for modeling.
All right. As I answered your question, hello. Okay, sir. So, last question before we invite our next speaker. Edith is asking, what do you think about one building a career in geoscience, even though the geothermal field is currently not yet established in Nigeria?
Oh, very well. I wish I could share my CV with you. Recently, we had some 2 publications on the geothermal potentials in Nigeria. It's not a wasted effort. It's not a wasted effort. You can research into it, but from our own results for now, the potential we have in Nigeria is not such that can be tapped for what's it called now, alternative energy. But the knowledge is not wasted. It's not important that you use your knowledge only in Nigeria. We have other countries in the world that depend on hydrothermal energy. So your research into that will expose you to the world, and you can be right here in Nigeria and be a consultant to people abroad. So I won't discourage anybody that wants to go into hydrothermal or geothermal studies. It's quite an interesting field of study, and which I'm currently doing with 2 of my PhD students.
All right, sir. So, the very last question, this is the last question. What are the various internship opportunities available for students to learn even during this ASU strike, both physically and remotely?
Oh yeah, physically and remotely. There are companies that you can walk up to. But the major issue we have with students nowadays is all you think about is money, money, money. I should have mentioned that while I was presenting, that there is also a place for what is called volunteering. You can volunteer. That borehole drilling company beside you, you can volunteer to just follow them to the field, see how they do their things, how they do their drillings and all manner of things. In fact, you can even volunteer to serve your lecturer. There is nothing bad in it. Some lecturers that you see in the university, they take jobs. They go for field works. You can volunteer to follow them. And they are not wicked people too. They will pay you your dues. But you may be expecting him to share a large chunk of what he has taken, and that's where the fight begins. So you can expose yourself to that. And remotely, if you learn some of these things I mentioned, especially GIS, you can get remote jobs. I'll give you an example. Sometimes during the last coronavirus lockdown, when our salaries was stopped, there was
there was a job that I felt I should be able to do. I didn't have enough knowledge, but I just realized that I could invest some time and some money into it. And I saw the remote job. I quickly went on Coursera and I paid, I think, $50, about 20,000 naira then. I learned it within 1 week and I got that job. At the end of the day, what I got from that job was more than my monthly salary. So if you can learn, then you should be able to earn. But if you don't learn, you may not earn.
Very well. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that, sir. And I hope everyone is clear and everyone is fine with those questions. So I'll be moving on to our next speaker. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be glad to hear you speak, Fernanda.
All right.
Thank you very much.
So let me do a brief introduction of our speaker. Fernanda Campos Furtado is a geologist from Rio de Janeiro State University, with part of our with part of our graduation performed at California State University, and is a master's in petroleum geoscience from IFP School, France. She's currently working as a geoscientist at the Total Energy in France. She's very enthusiastic about low carbon technology and energy transition. Fernanda and the IFP team won the first place in the international competition, the Minus CO2 Challenge 2020 from EAGE. It's with this honor I want to introduce Fernanda Campos Furtado. You have the floor, ma.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today. So I will share my screen.
Okay.
Please let me know when you guys can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. So I put here. Okay. So first, thank you for inviting me for participating of this event. It is a pleasure to be here. Today we'll talk about a bit of low carbon technologies and energy transitions in the geosciences. So I will give an overview about the energy transitions and low carbon technologies, but I also will talk about some opportunities that us as geoscientists have in these two fields, okay? I think someone, can you please turn off because there is a small echo? Thank you. Because when I talk about energy transitions, everybody have this sense that is a new thing, that is something that is happening right now, right? But actually, no. Actually, the energy transition is a process. And it's not a new process. It's a process that us as human beings have been going through in the past decades, in the past centuries. It's not the first time that we are a bit, and I will talk about that today. Here in this timeline from Equinor, you guys can see the primary energy fuel mix, the total primary energy fuel mix during the centuries. So first, when we start to use energy in the past was the biomass, as you guys know, the woods. Everybody used the wood for many centuries. Even before Chris, we used the wood, the biomass. And this was very important for the beginning of our activities as human beings. But in the Industrial Revolution, in the beginning of the 19th century, we start to replace the biomass for the coal. So we exit the biomass age that we call, and we start to be in the coal age. And it was very important for the Industrial Revolution, for all the development that we had, the use of the coal, because it was more efficient than biomass for our activities. So we start to do this change. The fossil fuels start to be more used than the biomass for the first time in the history of the human beings. And after that, after a couple of decades and almost a century, staying on the coal age, we had this very huge discoveries in oil and gas, as we know. And the oil and gas also was more produced and more demanded than the coal because of the efficiency. The oil is more efficient than the coal. It's easier to be transported, has a smaller mass. So that is many reasons why the oil and the gas was more useful for us as human beings in our activities. And because of that, the oil in the 60s, around the 60s, was more used than the coal. And until right now, we are in the oil age that we call. We are in the periods that we use more the oil and gas, then the coal and the biomass. But something that is important to notice here in this timeline, that we are talking about percentage, right? We are talking about who has the biggest part of this fuel mix. But if we talk about the actual demand, energy demands, we will see that we are not actually replacing a fuel from another. We didn't stop to use biomass, to use coal, or we didn't stop to use coal to use oil. Actually, the demand is increasing. Until right now, we keep using more biomass than in the biomass age. We use more coal than right now than the coal age. It's important to see that the demands of energy, it's always increasing because a lot of reasons. One is our development, the technology development, also the country developments. Many countries who didn't have had access to energy before, right now we have more people accessing energy, which is very positive. So it's important to notice that we had this growth in the demands. So the energy transition is not exactly a transition, it's not exactly a replacement as the word tries us to make to believe, but actually it's an energy addition. We are adding new energies to our matrix. So we can see here that right now, here it's the timeline is into 2020, we have a very diverse mix. We have coal, we have biomass, we have oil, gas, and these blues here, they are the new energies. They are the renewables, the nuclear, and they are starting to appear. It's time more, especially in the 19s. We had like a very growth, a big growth of the renewables, and they are keeping growing. And it's very important to achieve the actual demands of the world. But as we can see, the fossil fuels is still the main energy fuel in the world. It's around 84% of the energy demands in the world is coming from fossil fuels. So we have a high dependence on the fossil fuels. And why we're talking about energy transition right now is not because the fossil fuels are not efficient enough for our activities. We can do our industrial activities with the fossil fuels, right? But we are talking about energy transition right now because of the not advantages of the fossil fuels. We're talking about the bad things that the fossil fuel brings as the high CO2 emissions, the greenhouse gas, the environmental impacts. So in the first time of the history of the humanity, we are talking about energy addition because of the environmental sustainability. So it's very important to to be in mind there. We had the energy transition before, but were for completely different reasons that we are having right now, that we're discussing right now. In the first time, the modern energy transition, it's because of the sustainability. It's not because of efficiency, it's not because we need new fuels for our activities. It's because we see there are all the CO2 emissions, all the greenhouse emissions, they can be very prejudicial for us. And it's important also to talk about numbers because we are scientists, of course. How much more we're talking about when I say, oh, we emit much more in the oil and gas and the coal than in the other energies. And it's very considerable. And here I brought some data for you guys. We can see that even inside the fossil fuels, we have a huge difference between the coal and gas, for example. You guys can see my pointer, you can, right? So here you can see that we have the coal with more than 900 of grams of CO2 per kilowatts hour. So for producing the same amount of energy of coal, we have an emission of 921 grams of CO2. In the oil, we will change a bit because if it's a light oil, we're going to emit less. If it's a heavy oil, we're going to emit more. But it's around 700 grams of CO2 for producing the same amount of energy. And for the gas, we can see that it's way less. It's around 400 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour. So it's less than half of the coal emissions. And this is important to have in mind because when we talk about energy transition, we are always talking about the gas too, the importance of the gas for the energy transition, because it's a fossil fuel, but it's a fossil fuel with a lot of positive impacts. We have the environmental cost that is way less than the oil and the coal. And we also have the gas very spread the whole world. And we also have the gas being cheap. The gas is not as expensive as the oil, for example. So it's very positive for the energy markets, also the investments in gas. And the gas can be a good replacement for the coal in the industrial activities. So we can also see that even inside the fossil fuels, we can have difference in the CO2 emissions. And as us as geoscientists, we can work for oil, but we also can work for gas. So it's important to have in mind they're working, producing light oil and gas is way different than producing heavy oil when we talk about the environmental impacts, okay? And this can be very positive if we talk about the replacement of the coal, for example. But it's also important to have in mind that we have new energies and they produce way less CO2 than the fossil fuels. Here we have the geothermal, it's 100 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour. The solar energy is around 55, the eolic is 15, the nuclear 6, and the hydro energy 6 too. And one thing that you also have to pay attention there here, I'm talking about CO2 emissions, okay? I'm not talking about environmental impacts because it's very particular for each energy, the environmental impacts. For the nuclear, for example, we can see that it has a very low CO2 emission, right? For producing nuclear energy. But we have to deal with other environmental problems as nuclear wastes. It's very hard to do the management of the nuclear waste to try to do this management in a safe way for the environment and for the people. So there is other types of impacts that we can have, impacts the animals and the soil. So all the kinds of about climate change. When we talk about the CO2 emissions, the fossil fuels are the worst in the CO2 emissions. Okay. But one thing that we have to be in mind too, there is not just the environmental sustainability that is important for the energy industry. Because when you talk about energy transition, when you talk about the energy sector, we think that the main challenge right now is the climate change, right? We talk about a lot about the climate change, and we have to take in mind that there are other things that are so important as the climate change, are so important as the environmental sustainability. And when you talk about these three very important things, we have something that we call an energy trilemma. What is an energy trilemma? It's kind of a dilemma, but we call trilemma, is when we have three things that are very important, but when you try to push so much to solve one problem, we can generate second problems. So we have the environmental sustainability. It's a problem that we have to solve, but we cannot forget other problems and other concerns of the energy industry that are so important and we have to manage all the energy industry to solve the three problems at the same time. And these problems are environmental sustainability, the climate change, the CO2 emissions, energy equity, and energy security. The energy equity is very clear for us. I imagine you guys, it's very clear for you because in Brazilian, it's very clear for me. Not everybody has access to energy. When I talk that to you guys, it seems stupid because we know that. But when I talk that for Europeans, they sometimes say, but it's a big number. It's 3 billion people in the planet that doesn't have access to modern energy. And the energy equity, it's something that we have to follow. It's something that we have to work for. Everybody should have access to modern energy. Is essential for our human activities, is essential for study, is essential for healthy, is essential for everything that we do right now. So it's a right, it's a human right. People have access to energy. And 3 billion people in the planet doesn't have. So it's a goal that we have to follow. It's a goal that we have to work for. Us as geoscientists in the energy industry, we have to try to mitigate this problem. We have to provide everybody access to energy. And when I say provide access, is not just the logistics, it's also to being affordable. People have to have energy in a low cost, in a cost that they can pay for. If the energy is too expensive, it's not affordable, it's not accessible. So it's very important we also fight for energy equity. So the energy have to be accessible for these people. And other thing that is very important, it's what we call energy security. Energy security is the ability that a country has to have access of energy without disruptions. So for example, if we have solar energy, a lot of solar energy in a country, it's just an example. The solar energy has something that we call intermittence. The solar energy needs the sunlight for working, and in some times or in some seasons of the year, we can have less sunlight, and this can affect the energy system, right? So the energy security is the measure that we use for see if the country can have this can have access to energy without disruptions. And when I say disruptions, it's not just like the power going off, is also the power being affordable. If we have a very huge change between the winter and the summer in our power bill, it's a problem, is a problem of energy security. A country have very much to make sure that the energy system is safe. Other example of energy security, I think everybody heard about the problem of gas here in Europe. The gas from Europe came mostly from Russia. And right now, with the geopolitical problems related to Russia and Ukraine, we have this problem of the gas supply in Europe. The Europe countries as Germany are very dependent of the gas from Russia. And this is a problem of energy security, that right now they are not receiving more the gas from Russia because, yeah, geopolitical reasons. They are having a problem of the gas supply. So the energy security is also not being dependent of just one source, just one type of fuel. It's very important to have a diverse mix of energy in a country to make sure that the energy security is going to be all right. So when you talk the renewable energies, we usually do some backup of fossil fuels. For the eolic energy, for the solar energy, it's very important to have a fossil fuel backup as the gas to make sure if the renewable system cannot work during the whole year or have any kind of disruption, we can have a backup. So it's very important for the energy security. Okay, so it's before we talk about energy transition, it's essential to have in mind that we're not talking about just the environment. We are talking about the people's life. We are talking about people having access to energy, having access to affordable energy the whole year without problems. So as geoscientists, we have to have in mind that we are working for the society and for the planets. So you guys have to have this in mind, okay? And how to solve this problem? Because I'm showing a lot of problems for you, and you can see that it's a very complex subject, but there is 3 ways to solve this problem, and they are not independent ways. They are ways that we have to work together to have energy security, energy equity, and environmental sustainability. The first way, I think it's very clear for everyone, is the new energies. It's very important to invest in new energies, to have a diverse mix, not just depends in oil and gas and coal. It's very important we also invest in renewables. We have a system that can rely in different types of energies. The second way is energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is when we produce energy, the same amount of energy, but with less CO2 emission. If we can take the best as we can, the most efficient way to produce energy from the same CO2 emissions, we're going to have a cut of CO2 emissions because we can produce more energy emitting less. So investments in energy efficiency are also very important. More than 60% of the CO2 emissions saved in the last decades were because of the improvements of efficiency of our energy systems. So energy efficiency is also very important to take in mind. If you can produce more with less weight, with less gaps in efficiency, it's better. Okay, and the last way is the one that I will focus today, is the low carbon technologies, is the CO2 mitigation. It's possible to produce fossil fuels without emitting CO2, or it's possible to capture the CO2 that we are emitting, saving the CO2 that we are emitting from the atmosphere. Yes, it's possible. And us as geoscientists, we are a very great asset for the CO2 mitigation. So I will focus here a bit. I don't know what this here. Okay, you guys can see very well my screen. There is nothing in the front, right? Okay. So I will show you right now the CCUS, with the most common technology for CO2 mitigation, which is a technology that is very important for us as geoscientists, and we have a very essential role. CCUS, for those that never heard about, is carbon capture, use, and storage of CO2, right? And this process is basically we capture the CO2 from the industrial facilities. We have an industrial facility that emits a lot of CO2 as a refinery or a steel industry or a coal industry that emits a lot of CO2. And we build a plants to capture the CO2 from this facility. And after doing this process of capturing, we can transport the CO2 in two ways, or compressing the CO2 in ships in the same way that we do for natural gas, or in pipelines as gas. So we can, after capturing the CO2, we can transport for these two ways. We're gonna analyze which more convenience for the distance and also for the price, of course. And after that, we have two approaches. We can use the CO2 or we can store the CO2 in geological formations. The use of CO2 can be used for services or products. We can use for the chemical industry, but we can also use for the oil and gas industry as a service to inject the CO2 for doing EOR, for example. So we have this option of using the CO2 that I will explain better in the next slides, or you can storage the CO2 in the geological formation, on the ground in the geological formations, both onshore or offshore. We do a process that is very similar to the exploration. In the exploration, we inject the gas or the water to improve the recovery, right? We can do the same thing with the CO2. We can do an injection well to inject the CO2 and store in the reservoirs. And this is permanent, as we know, because it works very similar with the hydrocarbons. We know that the oil and gas is for centuries, millions of years in the reservoirs on the ground. And we recreate the same situation with the CO2 for permanent store this CO2 on the ground. Second, it's not going. Okay, right now. And here I have some schema so you guys can visualize a bit better how this technology works, okay? Here we have the source of CO2 emissions, the oil and gas, the coal, and here we have the power and industrial plants. There can be power, industrial plants of hydrogen, of power, of heat, and just close off these industrial plants, we can build a plant of CO2 capture. And after capturing the CO2, I think someone is drawing here. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce, but I think you're drawing here. I don't think it's me because there was a name here. It's possible to clean that. No, if it's not, it's okay too. Okay, so after capturing the CO2, we can store it in permanent geological formation. Here's an example offshore. It's important to know there in the geology, as we have the special conditions for oil and gas, we also have special conditions for CO2 storage, okay? So it have to be in certain depth. It's have to be also in certain temperature and certain pressure. We have to analyze the reservoir for the most convenient situation for store the CO2 on the ground in a safe way and permanent way. And I know there is something that comes to your mind right now. Okay, this seems very magical. This seems very nice, but it's probably very expensive because nothing in the world is so easy as that. And yeah, the main problem of this technology is for sure the cost of this technology. Right now is not very profitable using CCUS, but it's mainly because it's a new technology. So the time for deployments of the technology and reducing the costs it will arrive for sure. We already had like a great decrease in the cost of technology in the last decades, but right now by itself is not profitable. But a lot of companies are investing on that. Total, Shell, Equinor, all the big oil and gas companies are investing on that because we see that it's part of the future of the oil and gas activities, the CCUS. We can, for producing the fossil fuels area as we are doing it right now, we also have to think about managing the CO2 that we are producing. So all the big companies of oil and gas are investing hard on that. The governments too. There is a lot of subsidies from the governments as Norway, as Canada, Netherlands, for putting the CCUS as a reality in our industry. So if you're very curious about the prices I put here, the capture cost can change a bit. Can change because of how pure the CO2 is. If the CO2 is mixed with other gases as natural gas, it's going to be more expensive to capture the CO2. It will be around $40 to $120 per ton of CO2 captured. But if the CO2 is less mixed, is more pure, is more concentrated, it can be $15 to $25 per ton of CO2. And the storage costs can also change from onshore to offshore, but the average is $10 per ton of CO2. Something that I cannot give you for you guys as data of costs is the transportation, because it will change very much, not just because of the distance, because also the methodology, if we're going to use ships or pipes, and also because of regulations. Some countries allows us to mix the CO2 in the transportation with other gases, or the countries don't. And so the price can change very much for transportation, and is one of the parts that are more expensive in this process. And right now, talking about the capture and storage, a bit more specific technical data. How works the CO2 capture in industrial plants? That is three process for the chemical engineers. It's not very much geoscientists, but it's important, you know, that the chemical engineers are the ones who do that. That is pre-combustion, ox-combustion, or post-combustion process. The most common is post-combustion process. Is not a big news, because when you're drinking your soda, your Coke, you have CO2 inside. And the CO2 was captured because of the post-combustion process. The only difference right now is the scale, because we use a huge scale for the oil and gas industry. It's not the same scale as the Coke. But the post-combustion process is a very known process, is a very safe process. It's the important thing that us as geoscientists needs to know, okay? And after capturing, as I say, one of the options is doing the CO2 storage in geological formation. And which kind of formation is that? Any kind of formation? No. It has to be a reservoir with good porosity and permeability. And usually we use saline aquifers or depleted reservoirs. We also can use salt caves, but the most common is depleted reservoir, okay? Because the depleted reservoir has a better efficiency for store the CO2. And also, when we have a depleted reservoir, was because we produced before, right? We explored this area before. So we have more geological information. We don't have to do all the surveys that we would have to do for a new area. So in the depleted reservoir, we have more information, which is essential for doing all the working of storing, and all the process of CO2 storage is very similar for the process of exploration. We have to study the area, do the seismic, do the geophysics, all the models that we do for exploring oil and gas are very similar as that we do for storing CO2, okay? And the last option is using the CO2. And here I would like to give you some examples of how we can use CO2. First of all, we can use for EOR, for tertiary recovery. As we know, for producing oil, we usually do an injection well. There can be water or natural gas, but also can be different things as polymers and as CO2. And the CO2 can increase the recovery. When it injects the CO2, we can help our reservoir to expel the oil and increase the production, is what we do in Brazil, in the Brazilian pre-salts, in the Santos Basin. We already use EOR with CO2 injection because the reservoir of the pre-salts produce a lot of CO2 naturally. So what we do is treat the CO2 in the platform, separate, capture in the own platform, and then reinject in the reservoir to improve the oil and gas production, okay? And this is the most common process. I will show in the next slides, but from all the uses, the most important is the EOR. Because of the scale, we can use a lot of CO2, injecting the CO2 in this way. We can also use the CO2 for fuel production. We can also use the CO2 as chemical use, as ammonia production, which is very important too. But the scale of the tons of CO2 of use the EOR is the greatest, okay? Okay, so here you guys can see the CCUS in the world. It's very important to know that we already have a huge scale plants of CCUS working right now. In total, we have 27 installations in operation around the world. And as I said, the EOR is the most important technique. From these 27, 23 are used for EOR. So we capture the CO2 mostly for injecting and using as EOR, okay? We do that here in Brazil, we do that in US, we do that in Canada, we do that here in Europe too. In Nigeria, not yet, but that is potential. We will show in the next map, okay? But we do in a lot of places in the world. And these are the current installations in operation nowadays, okay? There is a lot of installations that are working to, in the next years, being deployed too, okay? And here, let's talk about potential, because I know you guys right now are thinking, maybe we can do that in Nigeria. Yes, you can do. As you can see here in the map, Nigeria, I hope I'm pronouncing well, but I think I do. I'm not terrible in geography. We can see that Nigeria, especially offshore, we have a great potential for injecting CO2, for storing CO2. This is a map from the Global CCUS Institutes. They did a map that is more, is not very detailed, but we can see areas that we can store CO2, and we can see that we have a lot of potential in the whole world for storing CO2, especially offshore. We have potential here in Brazil, we have potential in the offshore of Nigeria, Angola, Ivory Coast, Ghana. A lot of countries have potential too. South Africa is possible too. So we have a lot of potential for CO2 storage in a lot of places. So if this technology developing, this can be a very important area for us as a career for geoscientists, okay? And one thing that is important to have in mind, as I say, the process is very similar for storing CO2 as we do for exploration of oil and gas. So we can adapt our knowledge. Everything that we are learning in the university can be something that we can recycle, we can use for other new technologies, for other new career paths. So have that in mind, that if you keep updated, you can use your previous skills for new professions, for the professions of the future, okay? And other thing that I would like to make clear here is the removal capability. Why? Because every time that I talk about low carbon technologies, a lot of people say, oh, that's so stupid. We can just plant trees. It's so easier to plant trees. Why are you going to spend millions and billions with CCUS if we can just plant trees? First, planting trees is very important, okay, for the ecosystem, for the planets. I'm totally in favor of planting trees. But the problem is the scale. We have a problem of scale because 1 acre of trees can remove per year 2.6 tons of CO2. It's a lot, but it's not enough for the size of our problem in CO2 emissions. If we do a comparison with the CCUS facilities, we have right now, as I say, 37, right? 27, sorry. 27 facilities working right now in the world. And just these 27 facilities in the last year captured more than 40 million tons of CO2. If you can do that with 27 facilities, imagine if you have hundreds of facilities of CCUS. So it's very important to plant trees, but it's also very important to invest in low carbon technologies, okay? It's why they're doing that. They don't want to waste money, is because the scale of the CCUS can reach is way greater than the natural-based solutions as planting trees. And here I would like to give some reasons also to trust in the technology, because many people have some insecurities about the CCUS. They think, oh, that is not possible. It's not possible to leak the CO2. We can have an environmental problem after that. And I'm here to assure you guys that is very trustable, the technology, okay? First, because as geoscientists, we know that geological storage is effective. We can store CO2 in rocks in the same way that we do for hydrocarbons naturally for millions of years. We just have to imitate these conditions. We just have to study the conditions appropriate to store CO2. And after starting, of course, you're not just going to abandon that and let there for millions of years without monitoring. We're going to do a monitoring too. We can do geophysical monitoring. You can use the geophysical methods for see what's happening with the CO2. If the CO2 is very stable, if the plumes are migrating, to ensure the safety and connect before something happens. But usually nothing happens because, as I say, we do that in very good conditions, okay? And the third important thing for tracing CO2, the CCUS, is the operational experience. This technology, it's right now in operation in a lot of places in the world, as I said before, but it's not exactly a new technology. It has more than 25 years of operational experience, okay, and has complete safety operations. We don't have cases of leakage or any kind of accident in over 25 years. It's just since the 90s, Norway does that and other countries does that. So it's very important to have in mind that it's also very safe. By then, I'm right now finishing here. I just would like to show you guys, I think what's happened. It's possible to erase everything. Okay, better right now, sorry. Because otherwise you guys couldn't see the graphic. And if it's possible, please, guys, can you mute the mic if you can, please? Thank you. So right now about the future of the energy transition. In this presentation, I show you that it's very important to invest in new energies. It's very important to work in energy efficiency. And it's also very important to work in CCUS. And you guys gonna ask me, oh, who is the best? Who we should do? All of them. The answer is not easy. We need to do all of them. When we have a problem as we have right now, the climate change is a huge problem. The environmental problem is a huge problem. Multifactorial problems have multifactorial solutions. There is no unique solution. We need investments in all these areas. We need to invest in renewables. We need to invest in energy efficiency, in CO2 storage. And here's a projection from the International Energy Agency showing how all these solutions are important. And we can see that the CCUS has capacity from by 2050 to decrease in 15% the CO2 emissions in gigatons. So it's very important. We can see that the CCUS has also huge responsibility. As the renewables have a huge responsibility, the energy efficiency have a huge responsibility. So all these fields are very important for the future of the energy transition and the energy industry. Oops. Okay. Right now, I just would like to summarize the most important information because I know that I just brought a lot of information in this presentation. The things that I would like you to keep for your heart is first, the energy transition does not mean the end of fossil fuels or even the reduction in demands, okay? As we could see in the history of the energy transition, we didn't have a decrease of the coal use, of the biomass use, and it's not very likely we have ends of the fossil fuels or the oil and gas either. Some people say, oh, the energy, the dependence of the oil and gas and the fossil fuels. It may be in the future, in 30 years or 40 years, we're gonna have a decrease in a reduction in the demands of the fossil fuels, but the ends is not very likely, okay? Because as I say, we have more than 80% of the energy in the world depending on fossil fuels. This is not gonna change very soon, both because of logistics and also because of resources. The other thing that is important to have in mind that there is a real need to reduce the CO2. We cannot deny that. We cannot just ignore that we have a climate change. We cannot deny that we have an environmental problem. We have to be part of the solution. So we cannot ignore the problem. And the CCUS can be an ally, can be something that will help us in this fight, okay? And the CCUS is also the largest scale operational state technology to mitigate CO2. There is a lot of technologies to mitigate CO2 as the natural-based solutions, but the CCUS is the only one that achieve a very huge scale, okay? And it's the scale that matters more for industries as oil and gas, as coal, and steel. The industries that emit a lot need solutions in a scale that is also can mitigate a lot of CO2. And the last thing that I would like you guys to keep in mind, and I think is the most important thing to keep in mind in these events, is there are opportunities for us outside the traditional markets. Because when we are in the university, we think that we just have, I don't know, 5 options to work with. I thought that when I was a student. And when you start to search, when you start to open your mind, you see there is a lot of things outside the traditional markets. But you have to stay up to date. You have to stay studying. We're going to study forever, because when you work with science, studying is essential. Being informed is essential. And is very important to know how to use our past skills for the future, and also to be up to date. And you guys will have this opportunity if you stay studying and staying participating in events as this one. Okay. This is the end of my presentation, but I will add these slides for you guys. I will send for the organization of the event. I always send because I think it's important you guys having this kind of material to study. And I also would like to let you know that in the end of my presentation, I'm leaving 2 options of online courses for free, of course. One is from the EADX, there is from CCS. It's for free. You can do online. It's totally online. Has also subtitles if you guys want. And there is a mock of innovation in IFP that is also for free. You guys can know more about energy transitions, because the course that I'm giving today is a short course. But if you want to learn more, these courses have a lot of hours and you can learn more, and everything is for free. And you have a certificate, which is nice for your CV. And I'm also leaving here for you guys 2 institutes that I use a lot for researching and for studying. When you talk about science, it's very important. We read reports, we read articles. So the International Energy Agency and the Global CCS Institutes are 2 good sources. And again, for free, because I know that we're students, we don't have money. So just for free sources here, okay? Thank you very much for your attention. Here's my LinkedIn, my email. If you want to reach me, to talk to me, I'm always open to talk with you, okay?
Thank you very much, Fernanda. We really appreciate everything you said. And I must say, the world of CO2 is becoming a big energy transition that we need to look into. And this is the moment where we have chance for questions. So if you have any questions for her, the floor is open for you. So just raise up your hands and ask a question. Is there anyone with questions? Okay, well, I have my own questions for you. All right, so while we're actually talking, you spoke about energy trilemma, where you talked about the energy security, environmental sustainability, and energy equity. So my question is, what are the plans put in place to overcome this energy trilemma such that it doesn't affect human as a whole, and also the body actually in charge of this? So what are the plans that has been put in place? So that's my question.
Okay, so usually both companies and countries have to work to achieve these 3 points, okay? So we have a lot of countries right now working for the energy sustainability, right? Everybody probably heard about the electrical cars, about the renewable energies. This is very important. But when a country and a company will build an energy system, they also have to think about the other 2 factors: the logistics, the price, if it's actually possible to do that in the reality of the countries. And when I say countries, because each country has your particularity. For example, I'm from Brazil. In Brazil, we can use solar energy because we have a lot of sun. I think the same situation in Nigeria, studying incidents. We can talk about hydropower because we have hydro resources. But would be feasible to do that in Poland, for example? No. So each country have to do their own targets about the energy security and on energy equity and energy sustainability. Because many times we do the plans, we do the targets, think about a country reality, and it's not going to apply for everybody. Some of the energy sources, they are very expensive to be produced. And for countries in development, sometimes they're not going to be feasible because the government is not rich as other countries, as Norway, for example. So we always have to have in mind that the these particularities have to be applied for each country, each situation. We have to think in the both scales, in the global scale, because it's a planet's problem, it's the world problem, the climate change. But we also have to think that each country has its own resources, has its one possibilities to invest. So it's very important to see the particularities, what we have in each country that we can use as a force to improve our energy system, our energy security. For example, in Brazil, until 20 years ago, we didn't use a lot of solar power, which is ridiculous because we have sun incidents during the whole year. And right now, it's more investments of people using solar power as as energy source, for electricity. And we are doing that for a lot of communities, especially in the north of Brazil. There is being more investments on that. So we have to think about the situations, what we can do, what's going to be the plan for this country, what's going to be the plan that we can do with our own resources. When I talk about the resources, I'm not talking just about the water, sun, and windy and oil and gas. I'm talking about money too, because the investments are important. So these all these particularities have to be studied both externally in the planet's scale, but also in the country scale. So the governments have to be very aware of that. They have to be in the side of the scientists. We have to listen to the scientists for everything. So, and we also have to be aware of the each country has its own strategies. We cannot try to regulate the other country by our own reality. So I think this is also very important.
All right, thank you very much. There are some questions that has been said in the chat box, but there are also questions that has been sent before this event. So, the question here is, what do you think of the future of fossil fuels and renewable energy will look like in the next 50 years?
Okay, so in the next years, we should expect a more diverse mix of energy. Okay, it's very likely the renewables increase a lot. They are already increasing, even with the pandemic. The electrical cars had more sales in the even with the pandemic crisis. We had more investments in the renewables, even with the pandemic crisis. So when the fossil fuels were going down because of the pandemic, the renewables increasing is so huge that the pandemic didn't affect so negativity for the in a way it's so negative for the renewables deployment. So we can see that the renewables will increase, which is positive, but we cannot see right now a decreasing of the fossil fuels. We have a high dependence on the fossil fuels. We have a high demands in the world, and this demands is coming back to normal. We had, of course, a decreasing in the demands in the past years because of the pandemic, but right now we are in the post-pandemic situation. We are having the demands coming back to normal, but we will achieve a plateau soon. So soon we're gonna have the exploratory and production activities more stable without increasing so much in the oil and gas. It's a projection that all the institutes of energy does, but it's not very likely to see a decrease soon of the oil and gas. So for our generation, you guys, if you want to work with oil and gas, you should know that you're gonna have this opportunity to work with oil and gas, okay? But as someone that work with oil and gas, you have to be very open to the energy industry to see what's going to be the changes. You have to be very aware about the science, the technology, about the studying, about what you can improve in the process, how you can make your process more efficiency. So it's very important to know what you can do to improve, to give better energy to people, you know? So this is very important. This is the kind of the skills that we have to work, the innovation, the creativity, to do better energy. Because if you're gonna still producing fossil fuels, we have to do that in a smarter and greener way. Okay. So if you guys want to work in the oil and gas industry, don't worry, we're not gonna stop using oil next week. It's not gonna be so soon. Okay, it's gonna be for very much decades. Maybe my kids is gonna be the same situation. Maybe my grandkids gonna use more other kind of source. But the projections for the next decades, they're gonna is still using a lot of fossil fuels.
All
So
right.
that is this possibility for working But right now we have more possibilities. We have a lot of markets to work. So don't see the energy transition as a bad thing, guys. It's just more options. It's not like we are running over of oil and gas. We are just adding more things for the energy industry. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question. Someone is asking, yeah, I'd like to know where a geologist can work in this energy transition. So I think what the
Okay.
best. All right.
Sure, sure. Of course, I can answer that. So in the energy transition, there is a lot of possibilities. Okay. As geoscientists, we can work with geothermal. I saw that someone put here in the comments, but we can also use our knowledge for the new energies because we are geoscientists. We are scientists. We have analytical skills. So don't think that you cannot work with other types of energies because you guys have analytical skills. You guys know math, you guys know science, so you can apply your knowledge for different energies, okay? But if you want to work with geosciences specifically, I want to be a geologist, I want to work with geology in the energy transitions, the CCUS is probably the best match for you because you can use your knowledge as geophysicists, as geologists, to work with the CCUS, to work with storing the CO2, with monitoring this storage, to work with all the process related to the storage and also to the injection of the CO2, okay? And this can be everything. This can be seismic interpretation, pressure analysis, log analysis, also geophysics methods to understand better, reservoir engineer, very, very important too. So for those who like reservoir characterization, also possible. So don't think that your knowledge is not useful because it will be very much.
All right, thank you very much. I would like someone is asking a question in the chat box. You can raise up your hand and ask, so you have the opportunity to ask the question. Just raise up your hand so that I can actually unmute you.
Edit.
Okay. All right.
If she doesn't want, I can read too. It's not a problem.
Okay, let me read it out for you. Okay, so she asked this question. When CO2 is injected into the subsurface, does it usually affect or change the mineral composition of such reservoir?
Yes, but don't see that as a bad thing. Actually, it can be a good thing because as we know, the CO2 in the atmospheric conditions is a gas, right? But not necessarily in the reservoir conditions, especially after time. The CO2 has the tendency of mineralization when it's in contact with the reservoir. And it's a good thing because when it became solid, it became more stable, right? So the migration of the CO2 will be decreased. So we have a graphic that maybe I can show you or can share after. There, after the injection of the CO2 is going to change the phase, okay? And the last phase, it's what we call the mineralization. It's going to change their states. And when it became solid, it's very positive because we're going to have the CO2 more stable, okay? And this is a tendency. It's something that we look for. And with this change of the mineral composition is not a bad thing, okay, guys? So it can be a positive to become this CO2 injection more stable. I could speak more about that, but this is a bit complex to answer in 5 minutes. So, but if you guys want, I can share some material for those who want to know more about the phases of the CO2 and these changes, because we have like an envelope phase as we do for minerals. So, and that is each kind of situation, sandstones, carbonates, it's more specific. So this kind of information, it's more complex for answering 5 minutes, but I can give the material or I can answer later on LinkedIn if you guys want to read me.
All right, thank you very much. We have one more question, and the last one, they said, when we are talking of energy transition, are they regionally based, looking at the chip availability for some certain countries and at a different period of time? I hope you got the question.
Not very much, being honest. What he asking is about the regional possibilities of CO2 injection, is that?
Yes. Oh, I think let me give the opportunity for the person that asked the question. So, okay. Yeah. So you can unmute, you have the floor. Please introduce yourself, your name, and ask your question. Hello.
What's the name of the person?
Yeah, I've muted the person, so I'm waiting for the person to speak.
Okay, someone is asking my LinkedIn for why you will take the lead. Just a second.
Okay, you can drop it in the chat box. So
Mm-hmm,
thank you.
sure.
All right. Okay, I think the person is unable to speak right now. And Infinix Alt 10i, if you can hear me speak, please try and speak up so that we can hear you.
Yeah, like I just would like to understand better the question so I can answer properly. I didn't understand if the question was if the energy transition is biased by is like it's like that, it's biased for by region. I didn't get it very much. Can you repeat the question? Maybe I will try to understand better.
Okay, probably what she's trying to, what the person is trying to ask is, this energy transition, is it just a
Mhm.
regionally based transition, probably to a particular area of the country, since of due to the expensive or the availability of such requirement for the energy transition. So I think what the person is trying to ask is, what are the plans put in place for those that are not able to go into that energy transition?
Okay, okay. So actually, in my point of view, like being honest, all countries can go to the energy transitions, but all of them gonna do that in a different way because each country has different resources. And when I talk about resources, I'm talking everything about money, about energy resources, and we cannot expect that the same all the countries gonna have the same approach to go to the energy transition. I'm gonna give Poland as an example. Poland is a country that is very dependent of coal. They use coal for almost everything because they don't have a lot of natural resources. They are not as happy as Nigeria and Brazil about natural resources. So the thing is, when you talk about Poland, they have good economic resources, but they don't have a lot of natural resources. They can try to use the coal with the CCUS, for example, or they can increase the dependence of exportation or of importation of gas from other countries. But this can be a risk. It's what we are seeing in Germany. Germany is a country that had like a period that was very dependent of nuclear energy. It didn't work for Germany. And then they start to receive a lot of gas from Russia, from Norway, from Algeria. And right now, they are having this problem with the imports of gas. So each country has to see what's going to be best for them in economical sources, in energy sources, what they can do inside their reality. And for countries as Brazil and Nigeria, for example, there we have good sun incidents, there we have aeolic incidents also offshore and inshore. Maybe we can see the renewables playing a biggest role than these countries that cannot use as much as renewables that we can. So each country has to see their own resources, their own approaches. So it's very important. We see the both scales, as I say. So the energy transitions gonna happen for everybody, but everybody gonna see what they can, how they can do the energy transitions. Some countries can do more, some countries can do less. Someone is asking me about China. China is a country that is very dependent on the coal. More than 50% of demand of the coal in the world is coming from China. They use coal a lot. So China right now is trying to migrate for the renewables, but is also receiving supplies of gas from Russia. Russia is building some pipelines to go give gas to China. So China is investing a lot in renewables. It's the country who is investing more in renewables in the world because they are very dependent on coal. And it's a problem not just for the environment, but also for the healthy. Coal is very prejudicial for the breath, for the lungs. So people were having health problems because of the coal. The sky is dark in some areas in China because of the coal. So China is investing in renewables. China is investing in gas to try to decrease the amount of coal use. And this can be a great approach because if China can replace coal for gas, for example, they're gonna decrease their CO2 emissions in 50%. And it's a very good data. So each country can see what they can do in their reality with their economical and energy resources. Some countries are going to be more dependent of importation. Other countries going to export a lot. This is a geopolitical matter, but it's also a scientific matter. So each country have to study their own possibilities. It's the only thing that I can explain about that, because it's very specific for each country. We will have a different approach for all countries. You're gonna go through the energy transition. It's for sure.
All right, all right. So another question, yeah, I think before I let you go is my question here is for those that are graduates, what are the chances of picking master's degrees in carbon capture and CO2? Are there kind of universities or master's degrees that are available for those that want to basically specify on carbon capture? Are there?
Okay. So I don't know a university that does a master specifically for CCUS. Usually people studies that more in the PhD, okay?
Okay.
Usually people do research that after the master, because you need to study about a lot of things about reservoir, about pressure, about geology itself before going for the CCUS. So usually what people does is doing a master in petroleum geosciences, for example, and after in the PhD, or in the reservoir engineer, anything related to the process of CCS. In the PhD, they can specify a bit more the research about the CCUS itself. So about master, if you are very interested in the CCUS, I would recommend to study, to do a master in petroleum geosciences or reservoir engineer or petroleum engineer even, that you can work later with the CCUS. And there is a lot of great universities to do that. That is, I'm pretty sure that in Nigeria itself has great universities about petroleum geosciences, because Nigeria has a lot of activities in petroleum. So I'm pretty sure that you guys are well served. But if you guys want to go outside, of course, is an option. And all right. Here in France, I did IFP. I'm from Brazil. I did my studies in Brazil, and I got a scholarship to study in France in IFP school. I have a lot of colleagues from Nigeria who did the same, who also did the IFP school. And usually IFP opened the admissions in December. Okay. So around December, January, if you guys are interested in do a master in IFP, as I did in petroleum geosciences, or in any kind of master in IFP, usually opens around December and January. And you can have a sponsorship. A lot of companies sponsor. So we have to apply for both, for IFP and for the sponsorship. Okay. And it's very possible to do that. But there are other universities, of course, in Netherlands, they have great universities. They're also talking about CCUS. Norway also have great universities that talk about CCUS. There is a university in UK, that is the University of Edinburgh, that they are very specialized in low carbon technologies. They also have these opportunities. And yeah, guys, if you guys are interested in studying CCUS, it's there is a world of opportunities and possibilities. And right now it's very good that with LinkedIn and then with internet, we can reach people from around the globe. So if you see that there is something, that is a program that is nice for you, try to search for people on LinkedIn that did this program before. Some people are not going to answer you, but a lot of people will answer you. I'm pretty sure of that. So ask questions. Of course, ask politely and be direct. This is the important advice. Some people send a text of this size to ask questions. So try to be a bit concise. That will help people to answer you, and be direct. Okay, it's important to say, oh, my name is Fernanda. I came from Brazil, and I'm very interested on that. I saw that you did a program on that. Can you play? Would it be okay if you answer a couple questions of me? Just be direct about your intentions. That people usually answer. It's true, and you guys can have more information, because sometimes I know that the websites from the university doesn't have a lot of information. So try to reach people too. It's going to be important for you guys that want to do a master, both inside or outside Nigeria. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. I must say it's amazing having you, right? From
Thank
speaking
you.
to you, and now we're live. We're on this event. So before she leaves, I don't know if anyone has questions because I want to let her go. She might be busy right now and have other engagement. So if you have any questions for her before she leaves, kindly notify her so you can have the chance to speak. Okay. I don't think there's any. So all right, thank you very much. First of all, I would like you to share me the slide so I can actually share it to the participants everywhere. And also I will also share your LinkedIn profile with them too. So you should be
So, yeah.
expecting the messages from
No,
there.
don't worry. If you guys have message, be free to reach me. But if you don't have, it's not a problem either. I
Okay.
will share here in the. I already shared my profile on LinkedIn, and
Okay.
right now I'm just trying to find here the presentation to share with you too. Just a second before I
Okay.
forget to do that. Okay,
Okay.
here. Okay, I have to close my presentation to share. Just a second.
Okay, you can share it with me on my email so I can actually
Yeah, sure.
forward. All right.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Okay. Okay, so
Okay.
thank you very much, and thank you for coming around again. Okay, so you can all download the presentation file in the chat box. It's been made available in the chat box.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so thank you very much for the invitation. It was a pleasure to talk to you today, guys. And if you need anything, you can reach me on LinkedIn. Sometimes I take a while, but I always answer.
Sure.
So thank you very much and have a good day.
And you too. All right.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you. All right. Thank you for everyone that are still with us till now. We have our last speaker. She's should not be available, but she actually sent a video that I'll be playing for us. And if you have any questions, you can actually drop it in the chat box and I'll direct it to her. And for everyone that has these questions, what I'll be doing is I'll be sending it to your mail. So if you have a question for us, I will send it to your mail directly, the answers to your questions. So meanwhile, give me a while to actually share this video slide. Thank you very much. Yeah, I hope we all can see the screen presently. Can we all see the screen? If you can see the screen, just tell me in the chat box. So if you can see the screen, just let me know in the chat box. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'll be playing the video right now. Sorry, can you hear currently now? Can you hear? Please, if you can hear, please let me know in the chat box.
Aspect of the earth and its material.
How about now? Can you hear, please?
And any processes or any other.
All right. Okay. Let me give a brief introduction to her, and yeah, I'll be giving a brief introduction to her. Please give me a while I do that from here. Okay. I hope all we can see the screen right now. If you can see my screen right now, just say it in the chat box. Okay, can you hear me? Just let me see it in the chat box. Say yes, you can hear me. Yes, you can hear me. I'm waiting. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So our last speaker for today, in person of Oroyemi Blessing. She's an exploration and mining geologist that works for PW Nigeria Limited and BUA Cement Okpela, Edo State. She holds a BS in geology from the Department of Geology in Ekiti State University, Ado Ekiti, Nigeria. A few geologists with demonstrated history of working in mining industry, access to mineral quality control. She's also having a 2-year experience in exploration and mining with great industrial and interpersonal skills. She works diligently and adapts seamlessly to constantly evolving processes. She's also a registered member of Nigerian Mining and Geoscience, NMGS. So it's with this honor I would like to introduce Blessing Oroyemi. She's currently on the field and she has sent this video to me for us to be played in this event. So kindly let me know if you can actually hear and can see the video. Thank you very much.
Oroyemi, geologist. I graduated from it, and I would like to talk on my career, why I really choose to be an exploration and mining geologist. But before I get started, I really want to tell geoscience rather. Geoscience is exciting for me simply because it's really interactive and it's interdisciplinary and it's rewarding. It is an integration of diverse skills such as sciences, engineering, technology, mathematics, and this applies to real world challenges such as the mineral resources. Now, a geologist now is someone looking into all sorts of aspects of the earth and its material, like rock, soil, mountain, rivers, volcanoes, earthquake, and any other processes or any other force. Different types of geologists do. We have the mining geologist, exploration geologist, resource scientist, or petroleum geologist, and hydrogeologist. Or I will be talking about mining and exploration geologist. Before you can really choose a career for yourself, you have to know which of the sector you really want to belong to. You have to ask yourself, what am I going to contribute to this sector? You have to know what am I to do? What are the challenges? What do I really want? Those are the questions you ask yourself before choosing a career. Me as when I wanted to venture or when I wanted to start a mining and exploration career, it's what I really really love doing. Right when I was in the university, I I so much love traveling. Like I like seeing myself working as a geologist, as a mining and exploration. Because one, I love traveling. Two, I like seeing different rock types, meet different. Apart from rocks, now I like to associate myself with different people, with culture, different languages, different community, which makes it really attractive for me. And with all this, it's really developed an interest for me, to just go into uh, mining and exploration geology as a career. Now, I would like to talk about mining and exploration. Yeah, two things. Two things. Mining is different, while exploration is different. Of course, before there's a mining, you must have carried out exploration geology. What does I mean is before mining can start, there must be exploration. So what is exploration? Now, exploration is a process whereby uh, mapping out the area of interest, studying the area of interest, delineating the zones where the occurrence of the mineral deposits you like to mine is. And after doing that, you have your mining. And mining is a process of removing or exploiting this mineral deposits, which is economical value to human needs, human demands. Although uh, being an exploration and mining geologist is it's challenging, I would say, as a female working uh, with different things, engaging yourself with men around you. You feel conscious of your environment though, but what makes me enjoy it more, and also um uh it's what I signed for. It's what I signed for, and it's what I love doing. Yeah, currently I'm working in a metamorphic environment to explore and mine for marble, which is a metamorphosed limestone. Working as both and mining geologist is it's really really great for me, because with this I've been able to to acquire different skills. Um, I have access to many different investigation techniques, not just by mapping an area, but also interact with other professionals and non geological streams, and interacting with expatriates, the expertise now in the field, and also relearning state of the art, prospecting, exploration, and workflows. Uh, as a mining engineer, as a mining geologist and exploration geologist, we usually tend to work on different projects which may last for a couple of months or years or about, to see different geological domains, mineralization types, etc. Uh, yeah, I've contributed to exploration and mining projects which involves metallurgical and structural mapping in the field, logging of samples, examining them, making notes, and writing reports, to share my observation and to recommend. Also, mapping the quarry pits and correlating them with the drill cores, and making a geological model for the deposit. We have different softwares we use in mining and exploration. We have the Leapfrog, we have the QGIS, we have the SOPAC, we have the mapping tool, we have the global mapper. All these softwares are very, very good in dealing with the mining and exploration. You know, experience so far, I've been excited about the prospect of mapping and also to locate new deposits. Also, being part of the team that delineates and model mineral deposits for uh, for mining. Also, being in the team as well to solve problems in mining, especially problems that have to do uh, with the right quality, the right grade of ore to be used for production. Uh, yeah, it has been, those are my experience, and it has been exciting and interesting. That it's really, really, really interesting. Although at times it might be tedious, stressful, being a lady again, and it is what I really, really enjoy doing. Exploration, if you want to venture into mining and exploration challenges. Yeah, my take on in women breaking barriers in mining exploration. Women makes less percentage of the mining force, but there is a gradual improvement in our numbers, because hardly do you see a lady or a woman in a mining and exploration industry, because the few women feel it's stressful, it's demanding, it's challenging. But I would say it's not really like that. Although it might be challenging, yes, it is challenging, but believe me, it is interesting, and it's one of the best sector you would ever want to be as a woman, because you travel around the world, you travel to different areas to see the beauty of the nature, to see different types of rock, the formation, the structure, geological structures, which is very interesting. Honestly, it is interesting. I'll be talking on how to get started in mining industry for the graduates, for those that want mining and exploration as a career. What you need to do first is focus on what you set up for your success in education. You must be grounded. You must know what you really want, so you can be successful. Also, you engaged in geological community and gain experience, by participating in workshops undertaken by Geological Society and University Department. We have various type of geological society. We have the NMGS, we have the NAPE, we have the SED, we have the AAPG, and so on. Also, our advice for undergraduates to do internship if possible, because most of the schools they don't engage their students in internship, which is rather not too bad, but I think for the sake of experience, it's very, very good to engage students, undergraduates, to go for internship, which is very, very important. It is very important. At least it boosts your knowledge, and it makes you to see what you're being taught in class, in practical aspect now. So you see it in practical, you practicalize them on the field, and so on. So my advice for women out there, who wants to be in a part of mining and exploration geology, says, just believe in yourself. You can do it. If I can't do it, you can do it. Because although we think there is limitation, there is barrier, there is boundary, but believe me, there is no limitation, there is no barrier while working in mining and exploration geologies. All you just need is just be passionate about the job, and your mindset. You have to mindset as well tells and goes a long way. Okay, and I'll also be talking about advice, advice for aspiring geoscientists, or um, advice for uh, undergraduates. Uh, I would just like to tell you to have a good knowledge, a traditional discipline of geology, uh, work on standing out in your software proficiency for geological modeling, for reserve estimation, uh, because with this software, honestly, believe me, you are a pro. You have to engage yourself in knowing the software very, very well, which is very, very good when it comes to mining and exploration geologists. Then you have to be diligent in what you do. Always be uh always be above of what is coming. I mean, you should always be ahead of what is coming. Also, be innovative, which is important. Be innovative and be ready to adapt to different environment, different condition you are. Yeah, be flexible to working in rural and urban environments, which will really go a long way for you. Also, yeah, you have to know your weakness, your strengths, uh, the areas where you're weak. You can work towards it and develop yourself. The areas you need people advice, you you seek for advice, you seek for advice and work it out. Also, my concern is the uh, for ladies, you know, working in mining and exploration industry is really really good if you have a great mindset about it. I'm telling you, there's no barrier, there's no limitation. As far you can work and you're passionate about the job, you are good to go. Ladies out there, you just have to have the right mindset and in order to excel. Yes, you must have a good mindset for you to excel, for you to stand out as a female, as a woman in the industry, and believe in yourself, be passionate. Also, push outside of your comfort zone. That is, you just have to lay down your female stuff. Just have to lay down your female aside and work like a man. With that, you earn respect. You gain a lot of respect, and you know, and this by doing this, it's where the growth lies. Because if you really really push outside of your comfort zone, believe me, that is where the growth lies. Because you keep growing and growing and growing, not just looking back what others would say. You just have to keep going, and you also have to focus on what you really want. You have to focus. You have to focus on what you want, and I would like to say the strength factor of success to be a great mining and exploration geologist is your self-esteem. You have to have a good self-esteem whereby you believe in yourself, you can do it, you believe in yourself, you deserve it, and you believe you will get it. That is all what I have to say. And mind you, before choosing a career, be career wise. Like just think, like ask yourself, is this really what I want to do? Is this really what I want to venture in? Will I grow if I choose this career path? Just sit yourself down, ask questions, and you really get answer to work through it. And working in mining administration field is quite interesting and very good, very very good. It opens your knowledge. It opens your wide range, to see what the head is being made of. I hope this video really help the graduate out there to choose a career wisely because where you're really going to always ask questions and just do your best and you come out very, very best. Thanks once again. Oroyemi blessing. Thanks, and I hope you gain a lot with this.
All right. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me, please? If you can hear me, just say it in the chat box. I believe most of the people, yes, some people told me that the video is breaking. Okay, so this is what is going to happen. If you registered for this event, you will get in this video and other presentation files from the speakers to your mails and on the group chats where you belong to. Okay, so we really appreciate your presence here, and we really want to thank you for coming around. We have this program continuing tomorrow by 10 a.m. again tomorrow, and we want you to invite a friend. I guess you gained a whole lot. So I'm going to break into a breakout room before we finish. So I'll be creating a breakout room where you can interact. So on this chart, we just have, we started with 23 people, and now we're having 7 people. So I'll be creating a breakout room for us right now where we can actually interact with ourselves. So, okay, so it will be created now. And please do well to, okay. And all right, so do well to interact with those in your room. So we're doing that now. So you can actually join the room right now. So make sure you interact with yourselves. Okay, please, let's feel free to join. Let's feel free to join. So you can interact with each and every one of you. Okay, so let's do well to talk to ourselves. You just have like few minutes and okay. Hello, Victoria. Okay. Okay, so I believe everybody is actually in their rooms and they're actually discussing. Okay, okay, so feel free, interact with yourself, and I'll be closing the room very soon. So feel free to talk and let me hear your suggestions. So welcome back. Imad, you welcome, and Veronica, welcome back. So I want you all to actually tell me what you actually know about the other person that was in your room. Was there any discussion in that room? Let me know. You can actually unmute yourself. Feel free to unmute yourself. So was there any interactions? Okay, so Veronica, were you able to interact?
Yeah.
Okay. And right. So everybody feel free to unmute yourself. All right. Thank you very much for coming around. So I should be expecting you tomorrow by 10 a.m. once again. We have speakers that are amazing. We have a data scientist and also who will be teaching us how to present very well at any how to create a very astute presentation. And also we also have another person who will be talking about business consultancy in geoscience world. And the last person will also be talking about creating a unique environment for us as undergraduates. So I'll be expecting you there and I want to see you there. On this note, I really want to say thank you for coming around. And my name is Olarewaju Tolu. Thank you very much. And we have come to the end of the meeting for today. Thank you.